Welcome back to another episode of Black Law and Legal Lies, where we specialize in the legal lies. I'm your host, Dan on drugs. Flying solo right now because this episode we're gonna talk about medical malpractice. Prior to bringing in Becky and Ann, I want to tell a story. I have a story to tell, and it relates to medical malpractice. So, I'm going to tell my story or my side of the story, then we'll bring in Ann and Becky to finish the episode up and touch on the legal stuff, right? In 2016, and Becky, my fiance, and I were trying to conceive. February-ish, I want to say, I can tell you it was right around when 1963 was released on Hulu with James Franco, because me and Becky got busy, you know what I'm saying? We got busy during a couple of those episodes as we were watching the season. Come March, I'm coming home from work one day. Becky runs up on me. Don't run up on me. I don't care who you are. Becky, Ann, my mama, grandma, don't run up on me. I don't like that. I don't like surprises. I don't like being caught off guard. She runs up on me and she's handing me something. Here, here. So I take it because it's just a reaction when someone's handing you something most of the time. It was a pregnancy test and it was still in the wrapper. So she says, "Open it." And again, I'm caught off guard. When I'm caught off guard, I'm stuck on stupid. So I'm like, what's this? Just open it. All right. So I open it, I'm looking at it. It's a pregnancy test, and common sense tells me she's handing me a pregnancy test because she is pregnant, right? So I'm trying to read this shit. Y'all need to make these pregnancy tests easier to read, because there's a line that goes this way. There's a line that goes that way. One line might be faint. One line might be strong. Like, just yes or no or some shit like that. I don't know. Maybe she bought the complicated arithmetic algebraic pregnancy test. I don't know. But I had a hard time reading it, so I said, "What's this say?" Now I'm holding it by the tip and trying again to read it by the tip that I'm not, the end that I'm not holding. Then my common sense starts coming back to me. As I'm holding this, I asked her, I said, "Did you piss on this?" She was like, "Yeah," smiling. And I'm like, "You pissed on this and then you handed it to me. I'm handling something that you pissed on?" So she snatches the pregnancy test and she laughs and says, "I'm pregnant." So I'm like, "Awesome. High five." Um, so the next couple of weeks I'm freaking out. I'm like, here we go again. I'm about to be a dad. I don't have any kids. Have never had any kids, and I'm like so calculated with my sex life that I've never even had as much as a scare to where, oh no, there might be a chance you're pregnant with anyone. So I'm freaking out the next couple of weeks, and the further along you get, the realer it gets. So I remember the ultrasounds early on. We would the doctor would print them out, and we would put them up on the refrigerator, right? So the very first one I took to work with me, and I'm like, I know you're not supposed to tell people that early that you're having a baby, but I was excited. I was freaking out, stressed out. I do suffer from all kinds of anxiety issues, so my anxieties were kicking in. But I take this little printout to work with me, and I'm passing it around the office like, yeah, this gonna be my little man. This gonna be my little cause I knew I was having a son. I didn't know, but I knew I was having a son. So we passed this around the office, and everyone kept saying, "This looks like a peanut," because it was little. You couldn't make out that it was a baby. It was just a little mass. So we nicknamed him Peanut. I'm like, yeah, that's gonna be my son Peanut. So as Peanut grew, we would get, other ultrasounds, and each ultrasound we would put on top of the last on the refrigerator. So we had like a booklet almost. You flip them up, and you can see the progress of the baby growing. So again, I'm excited, but in the back of my mind, I'm like, man, I remember what happened the last time. Now, once we got past that point to where it was like, this is when she had the miscarriage last time. Once we got past that point, and we got past the point where, I mean, we spent forever Googling stuff, looking stuff up. Once we got past the point where most people are at risk or more at risk, then we really started getting excited. So, again, I already knew it was going to be a boy, and it was going to be Dan Jr. That wasn't even up for debate. And of course, Becky's looking at names, and oh, how about this name? How about this name? And nah, that's Dan Jr. Straight up. Well, what if it's a girl? It ain't. It ain't a girl. I don't make girls. Now, mind you, I've never really made a child, but I don't make girls. Uh, so everything again, I'm going off the top of the head. We're moving along just fine. Everything's healthy. We got a new doctor. Her again didn't like her first doctor. We got a new doctor, and this doctor was awesome. Um, I remember going into one of the appointments, and she was going to do an internal ultrasound, and she broke out this piece of machinery, this tool that was like 9 inches long, and she put a condom on it. She broke out the Magnum and rolled the Magnum down over this tool. And my eyes got big. I'm like, yo, she about to put that in you? And she was like, yeah. Yo, that's like 9 inches. My dick ain't no 9 inches. So that's parts of the vagina that I've never even experienced or been in. 9 inches. So I broke my camera phone out. I pulled the iPhone out, and I'm snapping pictures up in there because it's hilarious. It's like she put a rubber on a piece of medical equipment, a condom, and she lubed it up. And I'm like, my eyes again are huge, and I'm enjoying this every second of it because I'm like, this is just I don't know. I'm a jokester. I make fun of everything. Um, So she does that. She gets the ultrasound. Now, on this ultrasound, we can actually start to make out the baby. You can see a head. That's really about all you can see was a head. You saw one part was bigger than the rest, and that was the head. So we went ahead, put that up on there too, on the refrigerator, and we probably had like an ultrasound a week, and it was amazing how fast this what started off as Peanut grew. Uh, so one night, well, yeah, one night, she Becky kept saying that she felt what feels like pressure in her stomach. She didn't know. Now, she'd never been this far along, and she'd never been pregnant prior to the two times that we tried to conceive. So she's like, I feel it feels like pressure. I don't know. I don't know. I've never been here before. You've never been here before. I don't know. And I wish that well, no, actually she did call her doctor. She did call the doctor. I forget what happened, but the next morning, her the same thing. She felt pressure. She felt pressure. That's how she was describing it. I feel pressure. She was about roughly about 4.5 months pregnant at this time. So she goes directly into her doctor. She goes directly to the gynecologist the next morning. I don't even think she had an appointment, but she knew something was not right. So she went into the office and was like, something is not right. The doctor did some imaging and said, you need to go across the street to a specialist right now. Now, I was at work as this was happening. Um, so the specialist was a imaging specialist. She told Becky, her doctor told Becky, it looks like your uterus is not your uterus. I keep saying uterus. I'm not good with female anatomy. Her cervix, that's what it was. Her cervix was open, or it looked like it was open. But there's a procedure you can get done called a cerclage where they go in and they stitch it closed. So her doctor's imaging equipment wasn't good enough to determine if this is what needed to be done. So it was an emergency to where you have to go to this specialist across the street. So once I get that phone call saying that I need to go to a specialist across the street, I clocked out. I'm on my way. And I go down there and I'm in the waiting room waiting. So she's already in the back. So the doctors or the nurse came and got me and was like, she's this way. We get, or I get to the back, and Becky's laying on the table, and the imaging had already been done at that point. The nurse walks up to me, hands me a envelope, and I took it just like I took the pregnancy test, and I don't like when people hand me shit or just like I don't like surprises. What's in this envelope? So the nurse looks and says, "It's the sex of the baby." And I looked at Becky and she's got this look of concern, but she's also trying to put on the look of it's okay or everything's gonna be okay. Don't worry. So I pull the card out of the little envelope, and of course, like I told everyone, it's a boy. Anne was doubting me. Uh, Everyone was doubting me. It's not gonna be a boy because you want a boy. It's a boy. Had a little arrow pointing at his little penis, and what happened after that? The doctor comes in, imaging, whatever. She had another specialty too. She comes in and says your cervix is open. The tissue around your cervix appears to be very thin. I don't believe that a cerclage will be possible. So she instructed her to be on bed rest at home. She was about to send us home. You're going to be on bed rest, and your goal is to make it to 5.5 months. Because at that point, they can shoot her with steroids and all this other stuff, and our son would have a a better chance of surviving than being born anytime before then. So she the the doctor gave us an option. She was like, let's put you in the hospital and let's see tomorrow if maybe we can find enough of your cervix to do a cerclage. They had to get the contractions to stop. She was at this point actually having contractions. They were, albeit minor contractions, they were contractions. So she was like, we're going to give you some medicine that will stop the contractions. Once the contractions stop, let's take a look at it tomorrow to see if we can perform a cerclage. So they throw her in a wheelchair. Now, this is what they told her. This is what the doctor told her. You cannot sit. You cannot walk. You cannot do anything other than lay down in a bed. You're on bed rest, like strict bed rest. You can't get up to go to the bathroom. You're going to have to use a bedpan. So in knowing this, we went to the hospital, of course, and they wheel her back. I wasn't allowed to come back yet. I couldn't follow her back. I had to go check in with security, get a badge, and get all this other shit, right? They wouldn't let me in the back. So at this point, I'm on the phone with Ann, and I'm like, yo, we got an emergency. They're putting Becky in the hospital, and they're not letting me back there. So, I'm calling people left and right, telling them, excuse me, this is the situation. And finally, I see a nurse walking, I believe, and this whole situation was a blur. But I believe I saw a nurse and said, "Hey, my fiance is in labor back there. I need to be back there. Tell me what I need to do, whatever, whatever." So she said, "Who's your fiance?" And I gave her Becky's name, and she was like, kind of confused, like, who? So I'm like, Becky. Hang on. Now, mind you, again, I want to take you back to her doctor saying you cannot do anything other than lay down. They wheeled her over into a wheelchair. The nurse from this doctor's office wheeled her across the street to the hospital. And so, still nothing. So I'm texting Becky. I'm like, where the fuck are you? What's going on? No, I can't get back there. She texts back and says, I've been sitting in this wheelchair in a hallway for like 45 minutes trying to get someone to do something. And I'm just sitting here. They haven't got me a room. They haven't got me a bed. I'm supposed to be on bed rest. So I'm like, what the fuck? So I guess I don't know what happened back there. They wouldn't let me back there. I called one of our close friends who is close friends with Becky's doctor. Now, her doctor wasn't there. Her doctor actually didn't know what was going on other than she sent her out to imaging. So we got Becky's doctor on the phone, and her doctor went ape shit and was like, what the fuck are y'all doing? So they got Becky a room. They got her out of the wheelchair. Now, this is an hour passes, right? Now, they get her, they put her in a bed. They were supposed to run this medicine like immediately to stop the contractions. This whole time she was in labor, sitting in a wheelchair in the hallway. Nurses walking back and forth by her, doctors walking back and forth by her. And she was supposed to be on this medicine. She's laying in the new bed, right? And the still no medicine. Now, I was allowed to come back there at this point because she had a room. So we're back here. We're buzzing the button at the bed. We're like, yo, where's the medicine? Yo, where's the medicine? We're checking with the doctor. So about another hour hour and a half goes by. So we're at about the 2 hour mark. From being told that her cervix is open and she needs to be strict bed rest and on this medicine in indocin or something like that. Um, she a nurse comes into the room and says, basically, who are you? What the fuck do you mean, who are you? Um, oh, you're Becky. Okay. She walks out, comes back in, and she was like, there was a mix up with the paperwork. You already had an account here, and it wouldn't let us create a second account, or you ended up with two accounts. We need to delete one before we can give you your medicine. That doesn't even make sense. So if it's an administrative error, give the woman her medicine and y'all figure the shit out. Doesn't work that way. Whatever. Another hour goes by. We're on the phone with Becky's doctor. Becky's doctor is chewing the hospital staff out. Still no medicine. Fast forward 3.5 hours. Now, this is all just going off of memory. 3.5 hours later, they finally come in and say, oh, we got your account straight. Here's your medicine to stop your contractions, to stop your baby from falling out. She takes it. She's still having contractions. So by the time dose 2 came around, you're supposed to take it every so often. Dose 2 came around. She's still having contractions. The contractions were so painful that at one point she vomited on herself. Now, this is where Ann's here with us. Just Ann, co-host, is there with us. And she witnesses this too. Becky vomits on herself. And we hit the buzzer for the nurse. Yo, we need cleanup. And she's still having contractions. So everything ended with, okay, we'll see if we can find someone to do something about it. And we'll contact the doctor to see if the doctor wants to prescribe another medicine, a pain medicine, something, whatever. They were contacting a doctor that was not Becky's doctor. It was the doctor that was on staff at the hospital. What happens after that? So she vomited on herself. We trying to get someone to clean it up. 5 minutes goes by. Becky's still having these painful contractions. Now she's laying in her own vomit. 10 minutes goes by. No one has come to clean this up yet. No one has come to do anything yet. 15 minutes goes by. We have been buzzing the whole time. Y'all need to get in here. Y'all need to send someone in here. Becky is doubled over in pain. And now the bed is covered in blood. And she's covered in vomit. No one has been here. We've been communicating this through the little talk box thing. So me and Ann get up and we go and we're like looking for people in the hospital. You can't find anyone that works there other than the people like at the desks that are answering your buzzing saying we're going to send someone. Finally, someone comes and we're like 17 minutes after she threw up on herself. They clean her up, they lift her up, and they look at the bed and they see the amount of blood she lost. So they ask us all to step out. We all step out. They clean her up, clean her bed up, and refused to administer any more medication. So at this point, it's like you're on your own. Even though they now mind you, they left us there with no medication for 3 hours. But nah, you're on your own. The doctors were totally uncooperative. The medical staff was that the level of care they provided was just, it was horrendous. And I'm going to name this hospital, just not now. I need to check with Ann before naming them and naming the doctors. Becky was in the hospital for a week. It was too late. By the time they stopped her contractions with the medication, it was too late for a cerclage. They wanted her to induce labor and lose the baby. Mm-mm. That's not gonna happen. We're gonna keep this child as long as we can. So, I go home. Now, we stayed a night in the hospital. I go home to take a shower, get cleaned up, grab some shit, and we were taking turns watching Becky. Not watching her, but staying with her. When I would leave, Ann would come and sit with her. My mama would come and sit with her. Some of her co-workers had came for a while, sat with her. So I come back to the hospital. Now we've been here for maybe a day or two at this point. Come back to the hospital. There's a bereavement card hanging on the room door. And I'm like, what is that? Like, I flip it up and it's basically saying sorry for your loss while my son was still here with us, still alive. So I started to take it off the door, but I said, nah, I went in and I asked Becky. I said, Becky, what's that card on the door? She was like, what card? She hadn't been out the room. She'd been on bed rest. I asked Ann. I said, Ann, what's that card on the door? Ann said, that's called a bereavement card. And it's pretty much the equivalent of sorry for your loss. So I asked the nurse, I said, can you take that off the door? Because it's disrespectful. My son isn't gone. Don't tell me you're sorry for my loss when I haven't lost anything yet. So the nurse is like, oh yeah, she's gonna have to induce, and I've never seen a foot go back up. She's gonna have to induce. She's gonna have to lose the baby. No. Of course, ultimately it was Becky's decision. No. Becky decided not to. And I applaud her for that. Because that would have been my decision as well. So we called her Nurse Ratchet. She became a total bitch after this. In my 53 years, I've never seen a foot come back from out of the birth canal. So we called Becky's doctor. Can you get here? So the doctor came and she was like, the foot's not in the birth canal. So either this lady was lying, trying to get Becky to induce and get her the fuck on, or that miracle you never saw in 53 years, bitch, you saw it today. Fast forward a little more. Now they got Becky doped up. We're on like day 6, day 7 in the hospital. Becky hasn't moved. She's been in that bed the whole time, and we're all on rotation. The nurse keeps coming in and trying to tell her. So one of my friends, while I was gone, told the nurse off, basically telling her, the nurse told Becky, while my son was still alive, maybe, you'll have better luck next time. So I wasn't there for this, but my homegirl actually recorded all this. We recorded everything at the hospital. We all had our iPhones recording. So my homegirl Mish tore into this nurse. You can't say that to people. You're talking about you've been a nurse for 53 years. You have no bedside manner. You need to leave. Basically, you need to get the fuck out of this room. So then the nurse really had a problem, but whatever. So the doctor came and she was like, yeah, It's out of the birth canal. You're good. You're good for now. We're good. Yeah, your cervix is still open, but we're good. We were trying to get to 5.5 months. We had made it to 5 months at this point, give or take. After being in the hospital for a week. So they kept moving her from room to room in the hospital, or section to section, should I say. And like things like her IV would run out in the middle of the night. Like especially the first night I was there. The IV has this loud beeping on it, right? And it's like beep, 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 and it's very loud. So she ran out of whatever was in her IV at like 3 o'clock in the morning, and the no one came. So I go look in the hall and I see no one. So I said, okay, I'ma leave this door open, Becky's door open, so that this alarm in here going off wakes up and disturbs everyone on this hall until someone comes to handle it. So I open the door. Now this is a loud alarm. And you can hear that shit blaring down the hallways. Beep, beep, beep. And I know everyone's being woken up, everyone on the hall. And still no sign of the nurses. Finally, like 10 minutes later, a nurse comes walking in. Oh, I'm sorry. I was at the other end of the hospital, whatever. Um, so, I got kind of lost here. So what I'll end it with is, oh yeah, how they were moving her from room to room. The last day, I got a really bad feeling. And wherever she went, that bereavement card followed her. And I'm like, we're going to beat the odds. This is going to be a miracle baby. Sadly, he was not. He was. He was a miracle baby. For her. For hanging on as long as he did. The day I got that weird feeling, what I woke up and I'm texting my friend Mish, my mom, and I'm like, today's the day. So everyone's like, how do you know? I'm just like, today's the day. Get down here. So as everyone arrived, everyone's down here in the hospital room. Her doctor was doing another ultrasound. And they were like, ultrasounds done often. During an ultrasound, her water broke. All of us were in the room. So there wasn't enough time to medicate her, to give her an epidural or anything. They shot her up with a shitload of morphine, and she gave birth. I'm pacing around in the hospital room because I couldn't believe it was happening, but I knew it was happening. I couldn't I couldn't compute, I couldn't comprehend what was going on, why it was going on. Uh, Mish went up and held her hand for a little while and waved at me like, "You need to come hold Becky's hand." And I shook my head. I was like, "I can't." I didn't think that, I knew it was an emotional subject, but I thought I would be able to talk my way, talk my way through it without getting emotional. Nope. So Mish was like, "You need to come hold her hand." Shaking my head. I'm like, "I can't. There's nothing I can do. I'm a doer. That's basically what I do in my personal life, professional life. I'm a doer. I do shit. I find out what the problem is. I fix it. If I can't fix it, I find out. I find out how it needs to be fixed, what needs to be done, what steps need to be. That's how I operate. I don't operate too much off of emotion and things like that. Everything's calculated. And again, like I said, there's nothing to calculate, there's nothing to compute. So I'm just pacing back and forth. I got my fist clenched and I'm biting my bottom lip to keep myself from breaking down. So finally, I I get my emotions under control enough to now. I mean, mind you, it's a hospital room. It's not like I wasn't there. I wasn't paying attention. I was just pacing, walking back and forth. So I go up to the head of the bed and I'm holding Becky's hand and I'm telling her she's doing a good job. And it took her, I want to say, 3 or 4 pushes, and that was it. Her doctor looked up to me and said, "Do you want to cut the umbilical cord?" Again, nope, I don't. And my whole thing is I can't handle this. I I I can't handle it mentally. And like Becky and I both had decided, during the hospital stay that if she gave birth and our son didn't survive, we didn't want to see him. And it was because, like, I don't know. It's why do you? I can't explain why, but Becky and I decided that we didn't want to see. Oh, I know why. Uh, she was 5 months pregnant. We didn't know what we were going to be looking at. We didn't expect a human being or a developed human being with developed features. So again, I shook my head. No, I don't want to cut the umbilical cord. So they take my son in the back and clean him up, bring him back out. They put a little hat, like a knit hat, little pamper, and brought him out. And my eyes got huge because at that time I wasn't able to speak, but I had told Anne and Mish, who were both in the room, that if this happened, we don't want to see the baby. So the doctor comes out with the baby, our son, and my eyes are like huge, like, somebody say something. Y'all know what we want. Becky was out of it. She was doped up. She was doing a dope fiend lean. She didn't know what was going on. I literally cannot say a word because all that would have came out was y'all ever seen a video on YouTube, the world's ugliest cry or the world's funniest cry? Google that shit. Oh shit! I had to distract myself. That's what would have came out. uh, so I'm looking for someone else to say something. No one said anything, so they brought my son over and put him in Becky's arms. I walked to the foot of the bed because I didn't want to see him. Again, didn't know what I was going to be looking at. I didn't want to see some deformed human being or something that resembles a human being. And I'm sure the doctor would have been professional enough that if our son did not look like a human being, to not let us see him. So, that's the calculator side of me. So, Mish goes up and takes a look at him, and she's like covering her mouth, and she took her camera phone, snapped some pictures. I'm still at the foot of the bed. Then my mama goes up to the bed and snaps some pictures. No, she didn't. My mama didn't snap no pictures. What I'm talking about. She just went up and looked at him. So I said, fuck this. I'm going to go see my son. So I go stand beside Becky, look down at my son, and he was a human. A developed enough human. I mean, he had fingernails, eyebrows, and so I look down at him and I'm like, damn, he looks exactly like Becky. That's it. He had hands. The fuck did I say he had hands? He had my hands. So, I grabbed the blanket and pull it back a little bit so I could see his hands and his arms and his. So, Becky says, "Do you want to hold him?" And again, I shake my head no. And I think then Ann came after everyone else had saw him. Ann came up and took a look at him. So the doctor comes back in and says, what is his name? I couldn't talk. Like I said, I was too choked up. Not one single word was gonna come out of my mouth. So the doctor's looking at me like, yo, we need a name. They're filling out, I guess, a birth certificate or some type of documentation. We need a name. So I said, I got my shit together enough to say his name is Chance. So that was a name that I decided on. I'm not gonna say I 100% decided on it, but I 80% decided on it, and that name came to me one of the nights. One of the nights she was in the hospital, that's the name that came to me. And his name is Chance, because at that point, that's all he stood. So I was able to get that out, Chance. And doctor said, what's his middle name? I said, well, shit, I don't know. And again, I couldn't talk anymore. I got his first name out, Chance. Got his last name out. Uh, so it was up to just Ann and me to give my son a middle name, because I hadn't even thought that far. Like, I don't know. We didn't have a middle name prepared. So that's the story. And we tried to sue the hospital afterwards for a number of reasons. And I'm gonna take a break and then read an email that I wrote to an attorney. I need to find the email and tell you why we were attempting to sue the hospital.